Hi guys, this is a little video to teach you a little bit more about me, Mr. Bergman, your teacher for 7th grade social studies. I wasn't always a teacher. I used to do a different job, and teaching is actually my second career. Let's start off where I'm from. I grew up here around Indianapolis. Not my whole life. I actually grew up, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but I grew up in the woods a lot. When I was about 12 years old, we moved to Indianapolis, to Fishers, and I went to Hamilton Southeastern. After I graduated, I went to Ball State University. And there, I studied telecommunications. Telecommunications is kind of like news, radio, TV stations, movies, that kind of stuff. Originally, I thought I wanted to make shows, like TV shows, and be a writer and a director. But after taking 2 classes, I realized I was not good at that. And instead I found out that I was really good at selling stuff. I was good at talking to people and explaining things. And so I got into telecommunications, sales, and promotion. And there I wrote commercials and advertisements and promotions. And that led to me working at the Ball State Daily News, the newspaper here. And I worked there for most of college. I worked in the advertising department, so I sold ads, I designed ads, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I also minored in marketing and history. I minored in history because when I first went to Ball State, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And for some reason, I decided to change my major to telecommunications. Don't really regret that. I mean, ultimately, I ended up being a teacher, but I kept that history minor in case I ever wanted to go back and teach, which ultimately I did. But I really enjoyed working at the paper. I also worked at a TV station up in Fort Wayne. I interned there and in their sales department, and that was really a fun experience too. And ultimately, working at the newspaper and the TV station led to me getting recruited to a company called Mintel International Group, which is like a big, giant global market research firm. They're based out of London, England. But I worked in their Chicago office in the U.S. I had a lot of fun. I did sales there. I worked with a lot of different companies, and it was really fun living in downtown Chicago. I lived really close to Wrigley Field where the Cubs play. I went to a lot of Cubbies games, lots of White Sox games, and really enjoyed the city. But it really wasn't for me. I'm not much of a city boy. I really like the woods, and it got old. You'll hear me talk about Chicago a lot because I did have a lot of fun there, but it just wasn't for me, and neither was the business world. Now I did have a lot of fun working with some of my clients. For example, Apple was one of my clients, and one of the really cool projects I got to work on there was the very first iPhone. I was very fortunate enough to get to work on that project with them. So the iPhone 1, if any of you ever had one of those, Mr. Bergman got to work with their marketing department on the first iPhone. It was cool. I worked with a lot of different companies, and the stuff that we did, we researched what people liked. So like for Apple, they wanted to know what kind of features people liked on their phones and what they wanted in the future. And that's what we researched for them. And my job was to work with them and actually sell them the information that we came up with. And I liked it for the most part. But some things happened that I didn't feel so good about. For example, many of you maybe have heard of this company. Many of you maybe have not. Philip Morris makes one of the most horrible products in the world. They make cigarettes. Cigarettes. And lots of different types of cigarettes. Philip Morris came to our company and came to Mintel, and they asked to purchase information on kids and teens' spending habits and trends with kids and teens. Now, I didn't specifically work with Philip Morris. Some of my colleagues did, though. And I asked my boss, I said, why on earth are we going to sell Philip Morris information on kids and teens' spending habits and trends? They're obviously going to use that to try to sell cigarettes to kids and teenagers, right? That's what they're going to use. They're going to market it towards them, right? They're trying to find information. And I was told, well, if we don't, the competition will. I felt pretty bad about that, and I didn't think that was right. And so I decided I did not want to work in the corporate world anymore, in business. And I really didn't want to live in Chicago anymore. So I quit my job. And I moved back to Indianapolis. I took a long road trip, went around the country, different places, and decided that what I really, really wanted to do was teach. So I went back to school, and I got my teaching degree. I went to downtown to IUPUI and went through the IU School of Education and got a second degree. So I have a degree in telecommunications from Ball State, and I also have a degree from IU in teaching. I spent a lot of time in school, and I will spend the rest of my life in school teaching you guys. I like school. I like learning. I think it's fun. Other things I like to do is lacrosse. I played lacrosse in high school, and I love the game, and I brought it here to Belzer. This was my very first team a few years ago. The program's grown a lot, and we got a really good bunch of kids playing right now. And maybe some of you will be trying out for my team here shortly. Lacrosse is a fun game. It's kind of like, it's actually the oldest game in America. The Indians used to play it, and it is America's oldest sport. The guy who invented basketball actually was a lacrosse player. And there's actually, we say that there's a lot of basketball in lacrosse. It's very similar stuff. Anyways, other things I like to do. I mentioned that I love the outdoors. When I was a kid, before we moved to Indianapolis, I lived out in state park. So if any of you have ever been to Fort Ben Harrison, right across the street from Belzer, that's a state park. And there's about 30 parks around Indiana. Well, my dad was a manager of those parks, kind of like a ranger, a forest ranger. And as a kid, we lived in the parks. So I didn't have any other kids to play with because we were like the only ones in this ginormous forest. But it was a lot of fun. And I really learned to love nature. And I still love nature. And I love spending my downtime hiking and fishing and hunting and mountain biking and all sorts of fun stuff like that. This is me up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I went there for last spring break and climbed a mountain. That's me on top of Mount Liberty. That was a very hard climb. It was a lot of fun. This is me out in Colorado. I love the mountains. And I like going to cool and unusual places. I love traveling. My wife and I like to go to really unique and fun places. I hope to travel all over the world, but have not done all that yet. You'll hear me talk about these two guys in this picture with me. These are two of my best friends in the whole world. This is Aaron. He lives out in Boston, Massachusetts. He's a huge Patriots fan, and so we tease each other a lot during the Colts season. This is my best friend in the world, Pat. And Pat is an amazing scientist. He's becoming pretty famous, and he gets published in lots of big publications. He works in genetics, and he actually works at Berkeley right now. So if you've ever heard of Berkeley, California, it's one of the most prestigious science schools in the world, and Pat works there. And that's me. And we go on lots of backpacking trips together. We're really good friends, and we do a lot of these big trips together. And this is the Grand Tetons, which I don't know if anybody's been out to Wyoming, but these are very, very famous mountains, some of the most famous mountains in America, and they are gorgeous. I highly recommend going there if you get a chance. They're cool. And this is my wife, Ashley. That was one of the best parts about quitting my job in Chicago, is I moved back to Indianapolis, and I met her. And life's been much better since then. So this is us up on a mountain, up in the White Mountains last spring. And this is our dog, Gunther. He's like our little child. And we love him dearly. And speaking of child, we are getting ready to have a little baby here in a few weeks. So I will be talking about her a lot. Ada will be born. She's due August 18th, so we'll see. Maybe by the time you guys watch this, she actually could already be born. Who knows? Could be any day now. But that's me. That's my life, and that's my family. I love teaching social studies. I love 7th grade. I think I love being at Belzer Middle School. I think it's one of the best schools in the state by far. And you guys are very, very fortunate to get to come here and learn every day. There's a lot of schools really nearby that you guys could be in that are not nearly as good as this school. And so you are all very, very fortunate to get to come here every day. It is an awesome place to be. That's it for now.